Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned in to the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to keep that conversation going with you. So, Pat, where does everybody go after the show?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Swing on over to the website. Sign up on all the social media accounts. Shout out to everybody checking us out on Threads. The amount of traffic we are now getting in off of Threads, especially for the entertainment edition, is truly astonishing. You would even say it's uncanny a little bit. But we definitely appreciate everybody going on there and keeping those conversations rolling through the week. So we'll definitely be talking to everybody, especially following this episode, because there's a lot happening that we need to break down. Also, check out the TeePublic Store link. Check out the Patreon link. Shout out to all our amazing patrons, $1 tier, $2 a month. The blog section, which has reviews dropping left and right. The classified section, which has friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and many more. The directory. Pat, how many providers are we on?
185,956.
I don't question him. That's why he is the statistician to the stars.
Source? Just trust me, bro.
Yeah. Fair enough. But that being said, wherever you're listening to us on, we do appreciate it. Drop a review on your favorite podcatcher. Definitely helps the algorithm out. Also, check out the music section. A lot of things are happening there, especially with our good friends Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Tom Jolu, Second Suitor, Floodlands, Shout Out to Robots, all the amazing groups you hear each and every week on the ODPH. And if it's everything and anything that is the ODPH, you can always find it at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on the social medias to use the hashtag ODPHpod. We said it was a big episode.
Whew.
We absolutely meant it.
Yeah, it is.
There is a lot to break down in the latest episode of Marvel Animation and Disney Plus's X-Men 97.
Mm-hmm.
The end is here, so to speak. They are now kicking off their 3-part season finale entitled Tolerance Is Extinction. So if you are new to the show, what we like to do is give a spoiler-free statement on what we're going to talk about. After we get done with the spoiler-free part, we give a countdown, and you have a choice. You can either stay on and join in for the spoiler talk, or if you have to duck out because you haven't seen the episode yet, we fully understand. Pause this podcast wherever you're listening. Check the liner notes. Pad puts in the timestamps about when this goes down, so we don't want to spoil anything for you. But after you check it out, definitely jump back into the show, see what we had to say about it, and let's keep those conversations rolling with us on social media. Because obviously this show has had a lot going on.
Yeah.
Picking up the pieces right from 1997, the finale of the X-Men animated series, which was debuted in 1992 on Fox, and really has taken over.
Mm-hmm.
I think that fans don't realize how much this has taken over pop culture.
Yeah, no, it's kind of wild to see when you think about it. Like, we knew this was going to be big.
Oh, yeah.
The show's been popular. You know, the original series was popular for 30 some odd years. Beloved by fans who've seen it, you know, whether you saw it when it first aired or you saw it in the years, over the years on, you know, DVD or one of the streaming services. I know it was on Netflix a number of years ago, you know, but beloved to this day and definitely holds a place, you know, in the Hall of Fame of animated television.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And to see where they're going with the source material, it is refreshing to me as a comic fan to see a deep dive into an era of comics that in this day and age, I mean, true fans know the ones that are, you know, the deep dives into the pull boxes and goes, you know, for the back issues. We understand like where this era is, but for fans that are just jumping in now past 10 years, this is a true treat to see their reaction to all these amazing stories from the past, because a lot of this is centered around the 80s and 90s.
Yep.
To think about how those stories are still holding up, you know, all these years later.
Yeah.
And seeing the reaction, it's having fans wanting to go back and check those issues out at the comic shops or on Marvel Unlimited. Like, they're having that effect on fans that has now created such a buzz around what's happening in the comics today. It's this weird full circle event, but it's paying off dividends.
Yeah.
And to see how everything has been building up, this season has been a little crazy because
it has.
They've dived into, like we say, an era of X-Men comics that is a little confusing to outsiders that have not been following since the 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
Because obviously we've had the live-action movies, we've had other iterations on animation. It's a different time, it's a different world, but seeing how this is all brought back in and combining multiple eras and really elevating it to, such a level, this is just what, is truly blowing me away.
Yeah.
Is just seeing how they're making this make sense, because this is very two distinct decades coming together.
Yeah.
And really connecting with an audience that is just blown away by what we're seeing. But for me, like I say, as a longtime X-Men fan, I'm like, this is my era of X-Men. I love this.
And it's awesome to see them pull from the comics so wonderfully like they did for the original series back in the 90s, because X-Men has always stayed relevant in terms of pop culture since the 90s. You had the show in the 90s. You had the movies over the course of the last 20 some odd years or whatever. But there was also animated shows as well. X-Men Evolution comes to mind. Wolverine and the X-Men comes to mind. I know they did like an anime one with Wolverine, a couple of years ago, whatever it was. So they've always been popular, but it's always been kind of like, to me at least, it felt like they were kind of doing their own thing, maybe borrowing a few elements from some key stories or some, minor stories or whatever, but it never borrowing like full-fledged plots and admittedly reworking them a bit, retooling them a bit for the assets they might have had or might not have had, but to see them kind of dive back in and really borrow heavily from the comics is awesome to see.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. And I am completely blown away each and every week, because for being in this deep in the season, they haven't missed a beat.
Nope.
8 episodes in, there's only been maybe one. And I don't even want to say it was a misfire.
It was a half a misfire.
It was not as strong in comparison to the body of work we've seen. And now going into the first part of Tolerance is Extinction, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement on this episode.
It's good to see that despite the changes they've had of like the writers and producers and the folks in charge of the show, that the vibe and the continuity of whenever this show comes on and you see the title and it's got a part whatever after the title, some serious, what is about to go down. Because you can go back and watch, if you haven't seen it, the original series, and obviously they did the Phoenix Saga, Days of Future Past, where these multi-part stories, the Beyond Good and Evil storyline from season 4, where because back in the day, we didn't have the internet, and all we had was the little TV guide that came in your local newspaper on usually about a Sunday, I want to say Saturday or Sunday, and you'd have to sit there and flip through the pages and scroll and make sure you knew what time it was on and look and see what the title was, because there was no TV guide. There was a channel, but you couldn't sit there, hit a button and see what it was.
Right.
So when that title popped up and you saw the title Part 1 and you went, oh shit, we're about to see some stuff. It's good to see that despite the internet being a thing, and we can easily see what the titles are and kind of cross-reference that against what it might be from the comics, that it still packs that punch, because boy did this pack the punch. It's the first part of the final 3 episodes of this season. It's setting up for something crazy. They've been building to it all season, and it started with a bang. They didn't waste any time getting into it, and I cannot wait to see where this goes the final 2 episodes.
This has delivered on so many different levels. And really made what we're going to see in the finale feel like an event.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing.
And this is kudos to Bo DeMeo and the team that worked on this.
Yeah.
I know Bo has been putting out on his social media, issues and episodes to go check out and get caught up on this.
Trying to avoid those because I don't want to spoil myself.
Right. No, I go back after to go see
it.
But, he's been on top of this, and this is a moment that you see just true storytelling and how they've connected on the emotional level with the audience.
Because there's been a lot going on this season, and it all kind of comes to a head in this episode. And for me, it was almost overload and sensory overload at one point, but I went, let's just ride this wave. This is going to be nuts.
Well, that's why they went for 3 parts for the finale.
Right.
Because there's a lot to juggle around. And they definitely explained a lot here that I think for fans that were a little confused,
sure,
especially about who was introduced last episode,
sure,
they cleared up a lot.
Uh-huh.
And they gave fans a moment at the end that is really going to set things in motion. I don't think that we're going to slow down by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
We're going to get hit with a mic drop moment in the finale.
Guaranteed.
And there's going to be a lot of buzz happening when that episode comes out. So I'll give everybody just kind of a little precursor.
Don't wait to watch it.
Yeah, May 15th. Get up as early as you can and stay off social media until you're done. Because there are going to be a lot of people talking about it based off of what we saw today. So let us get into it, Pat, in 3, 2, 1. Talk to me.
Like I said, this episode, one of the best they've done so far. It kind of brought everything together that we've been watching up to this point. And you might have been sitting there going, oh, why are they really doing this? Why are they, expounding on this plot thread? Well, we found out here, and it's certainly coming to a head, where when you thought things were maybe a little turbulent, but might be calming down, things might finally, after, the 5 years we've been watching this team in universe kind of go through hell and high water, that, oh, you know what? That things might finally be going their way. That car took a hard left turn at Albuquerque and went, nope, because boy, did things kick off, and I have no idea where they're going to go. Like I said, I'm trying to avoid anything of like, read this issue, read that issue to see where they're going to go. I want to go in as blind as humanly possible, and I'm waiting to be surprised, and I'm excited about this.
Magneto was right.
That shirt needs to get reprinted.
Yeah, he was right.
Hot Topic or Marvel, Disney, or whoever, get on that.
The levels that we saw his character go through this entire season.
In a short amount of time.
I was just going to say in a very short amount of time.
Because there was one episode I'm trying to think, he wasn't in most of the first one. Was in all of the second and the third one. Wasn't in the fourth one.
Yeah, fourth one was his only real disappearance.
Fourth one was his only, but he's not been in all the episodes.
Right. To see how his character has progressed has been one of the best parts of the show.
Uh-huh.
And where we led into here, getting a new villain in that a lot of fans didn't know, unless, like I said, you've read that era of comics, Bastion is almost an afterthought.
Well, and just some ambiguity, because typically with a comic book property, movie, television show, video game, you don't usually wait until, just using math here, we'll say the third act.
Mm-hmm.
You usually don't wait until the third act of the story to unveil the villain. They're usually unveiled fairly early on or towards the end of the first act. We went through how many episodes of this? And sure, there were some villains and some antagonists, looking at it from, a studying standpoint, that we're like, okay, they're clearly the villain, but they're not the, capital villain.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they waited until, the seventh episode, essentially the start or the end of the middle part of the third act, to unveil the villain, just a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, is flawless. And especially for fans that don't know who this villain is. Yeah, this was something that you got easily connected to because there's something charismatic about him.
And they did such a good job of showing how much of a threat he is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Didn't waste any time, and no ongoing long monologue in front of the heroes explaining his methods and why he's doing what he's doing, and the typical spiel you might hear from a villain, no matter what it is, comic book or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Instantly right down to business, kicking ass, and I'm going to take names later.
Yeah, because where this episode jumps in, obviously tensions between humans and mutants are at an all-time high.
Uh-huh.
And things are looking as scary as they've ever looked.
Yep.
And we now have Cable is finally revealing his mysterious return to this timeline. Because we have to remember, during this era of comics, Cable was doing a lot more time travel that he's ever done.
Sure.
So I liked how they touched upon this. They didn't go super over the top. And they do explain about why he is back, and that's to stop Bastion.
Uh-huh.
And I like how they did this one small part here, because Wolverine immediately says, why didn't you stop Genosha?
Right.
And Pat, how does he explain this?
Well, I don't know if he explains it. I think they come around to it. And I know Beast at one point brings up in the discussion like a fixed point in time, that there are certain points in all timelines that happen the same way and happen, with the same folks involved, where no matter how much you mess with it or try to go in there and change it, you cannot change it.
Right.
That Genosha and what happened to it is a fixed point in time. It happens every single time.
Mm-hmm. They've explained this a few times in Doctor Who.
They have in Doctor Who. And the other thing, too, I think, is I think Cable brings it up at one point, and I'm paraphrasing. He's like, don't you think I tried? And I think he even alludes to the fact that he tried so many times that it almost drove him to madness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because every time he would go there, he would get knocked out.
Yeah.
There was something, and he could not figure out why.
Right.
Because he knows what happens at this moment and what leads into the ultimate war between humans and mutants.
A 300-year war, to be specific.
Yeah. So Bastion uses this as the initial starting point.
The other thing we get, and I can't remember if it's in this scene or if it's later, we get an explanation from Bastion to kind of his cronies about why he's doing what he's doing. And this is about the only monologuing we get, and because they're a little confused as to his methods and what he's doing. And he basically says, listen, things were looking real good for the X-Men and the humans were sympathizing with them, but you know what I decided to do? Sensory overload. I decided to give the X-Men and the mutants so much sentiment and so much goodwill towards them from the humans that the humans would inevitably turn on them. And I sat there and I'm like, oh shit, you know what? I can see where he's coming from.
Oh yeah, because we do see a glimpse of the future where mutants are now working for humans. And basically they're enslaved.
Yep.
And you do see some cameos of Lorna Dane and Rachel Summers. So seeing how they're now forced to work for the humans. And basically, this is where Bastion is trying to say this is human evolution. And it goes back, like I say, this has been always a theme, so to speak, of humans versus mutants and evolution since the dawn of the X-Men.
Yep.
So this is something that has really been portrayed in an interesting light for the show. So I like how they set this up. And this is where Cyclops and Jean ultimately say, okay, we have to stop Bastion before he gets going. Like we need to figure out what he's all about. They go with Cable to Harmony, Pennsylvania.
Ironic, because I could not think of a less harmonious person.
And they wind up going to the location that they picked up from Intel from the future. And Pad, it was the childhood home of Bastion. What's your reaction to this moment?
Very shocked, because I think they were going in, if I remember correctly, they were going in expecting one thing. And then they very quickly realized, based on some photos on the wall, I think it was Jean that picked up on it. Also based off of, if I remember correctly, she touched the railing of the stairs leading into the house. And her psychic powers generated a wheel on one of the tricycles that was there. It was missing a wheel. And that's when she put two and two together, that she's like, wait a minute, this is Bastion's childhood home.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I got to admit, I was getting kind of like X-Men Last Stand vibes, where I'm like, okay, the last time I can remember the X-Men going into somebody's house, their childhood house, it did not end very well.
No.
And typically with the X-Men, anytime they go to anybody's house, it usually doesn't end well. So I was just like, all right, time to start the countdown timer on my phone about when shit's about to kick off here, because it ain't long.
And during this time, they actually run into Bastion's mother.
Yeah, I didn't expect this either.
Yeah, which she was previously in an episode of X-Men the Animated Series.
Oh.
Yeah, she was a nurse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was one of the...
Admittedly, it's been a while, but okay.
Yeah, no, I saw the Easter egg was going around online that she was in a former episode.
Nice.
So she's more or less explaining Bastion's origin, and this kind of ties into what Bastion is doing at the same time with one Dr. Val Cooper. Because at Bastion's location, the home base of OZT, or Operation Zero Tolerance, he's walking Val through how he is turning humans into sentinels. And this goes back and forth between what his mom is telling Scott and Jean and Cable. And saying that, yeah, Bastion is the product of his father and myself, who he was infected with a certain techno-organic virus.
Yeah.
Which I loved how they set this up, because this is slightly different.
Multi-layered.
Yeah, this is because it's basically Cable was the prototype for this, which is weird to say, but you know what?
Time travel.
It makes sense. So they do switch up the origin of Bastion a little bit here.
Sure.
And then you do see how Bastion, when he is getting older, they find out that he is basically the next evolution of human and Sentinel.
Right, because I think the explanation he gives is like, oh, they know the Sentinels. They fully expect, and he's like, not to give any discredit to Trask, but they know the Sentinels. They expect the Sentinels, and they know what to do when they see one.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the greatest weapon we can give humanity is like basically the gift of secrecy.
Yeah.
And that like we're at an advantage when they don't know what to do and when they're not expecting it.
Mm-hmm. So you do see this very cool back and forth in the history of Bastion and how he's growing up, and literally is just his whole life mission is to extinguish mutant kind.
Yeah, drew a painting as a kid of Master Mold and basically the enslavement of all mutants.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, if that didn't earn him a phone call home from the art teacher, I don't know what that school was doing.
Oh, I know.
Also, were you creeped out at the start with the mother like I was?
Yes.
Because they show up in the house and they're looking around. They're like, oh, my God, this is Bastion's childhood home. And then you just hear a voice from off screen go, oh, hello. I was told to expect you, but not until tomorrow. I'm surprised you're here now. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
Mm-hmm.
And just her kind of tone and mannerisms the entire time. I'm like, yeah, something ain't right about this.
I had Grandma Chainsaw vibes.
Ooh.
Shout out to Alan Dunford. Brand new book is out on Kickstarter too, by the way. The Herald. Go check it out. So we do get this back and forth. And like I say, Bastion is revealing his plan to Dr. Val Cooper.
Uh-huh.
And all the while, they reveal that he has a certain prisoner.
Uh-huh.
And that is the one and only Magneto.
Yup.
So
Who we caught a glimpse of last episode.
yes. But now he has been completely contained.
Mm-hmm.
And he's watching the process of how humans are now becoming Sentinels.
Mm-hmm.
And Bastion is walking through his weird view of the world.
Weird's putting it mildly.
As he takes an individual who, I'm not going to lie,
Okay.
I legit thought this was David Spade's Joe Dirt character. I legit thought it was. I'm like, okay, 90s movie could make sense.
If that's not who it is now.
I was like, immediately I go,
Headcanon accepted.
It's Joe Dirt. Like, what's Joe Dirt doing? And Bastion is walking through about like he's somebody that lost his job to a mutant, and
right.
He's basically brainwashing him.
He's told to what is it? He's told to accept the future of mutants. He loses his job to a mutant, and what does that do? It leads him to a dial-up form where he can connect with like-minded people, or something to that effect.
Yeah, it's all about basically like the recruitment process for the Friends of Humanity.
Yep.
And it's also for, OZT, which, like I say, Bastion has been orchestrating this. He's been playing chess while everybody's been playing checkers.
He's pulling the strings.
Yeah, while everybody's playing checkers. Like, that's what he's been doing. So we do see that he decides to unveil his plan.
Uh-huh.
And it's no longer time to wait. He activates all the Prime Sentinels.
Well, and this is all the while Beast and his friend, the reporter, Trish, who's now not a reporter, because she wasn't real kosher and on the up and up with what whoever she was working for was doing, are at the Xavier mansion examining Gyrich. Or whoever it was.
No, it was Rogue.
Oh, that was
Rogue because Gyrich was killed in Mexico.
Right. Well, they're examining folks at someone at the mansion, and they're trying to figure out. Well, they start to Beast starts to put the pieces together of like, all right, well, there's people with cybernetic implants in them. Let's run some data and figure out how many people are infected on the around the world with this. Right as they activate the Sentinels is when the numbers start coming through. So that's probably tied in together. Mm-hmm. But they don't ever give a firm number. But just based off of the lights that highlight up on the map projection, it's a lot.
Oh yeah,
and it's on every continent.
So sleeper agents have been put all over the world,
including his friend Trish. She's a Sentinel hybrid. How this happened, we have no idea.
Nope, we just call it what, Pad?
Reasons.
But it works. So the attack is fully on, and at Bastion's home, the Summers family is now being attacked. So it is literally game on for the X-Men survival.
And I love the one line when the Summers are fighting through the hideout in the mansion, where they're driving down, they get trapped in the cave. Mm-hmm. They're getting trapped in the cave by the other Sentinels, and you just hear Scott go, Let's show these guys how the Summer family fights or whatever.
You don't screw with the Summers family.
You don't screw with the Summers family. Jean takes control of the Jeep or the car or whatever it is with her telepathy. Scott stands up and turns his beams on full blast, blasting away out of the cave. Cable turns around, he starts firing his gun. The X-Men music theme kicks in, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was perfect, the action sequence, because they have to escape in the Blackbird. The Blackbird gets taken down. They have a car in the back. It's a Porsche. And
of course it is.
You do see this fun moment, too, between Cable and Cyclops, father and son, who never had this moment to bond with. And they, Cable's like, oh, you have a Porsche? And you just see a smirk from Cyclops as they're speeding through and trying to get away from their death trap. All the while at the X Mansion, that's getting attacked. You do have Wolverine finally unleashed.
Yep.
Too, which I've been waiting all season to see. So he is sitting there trying to fight and defend everybody he can, because Rogue is still out of commission. You do see Nightcrawler demonstrating his sword displays.
Well, what is it? At one point, one of the human sentinels says to Wolverine, like, "Oh, what reason do we have to listen to you?" And Wolverine goes, "I've actually got 6 reasons." And you just hear from off screen 9. It shows Nightcrawler showing up with one blade in each hand. I believe they're katanas, and then he's got a third one being held by his tail. He goes, 9. You have 9 reasons.
Yeah. So they are literally taking everybody out that they can. Unfortunately, though,
they suck Wolverine up into like low orbit, drop him from fucking low orbit, almost space, and he crashes into the mansion, all the while fighting human sentinels on the way down, dismembering them. Oh my god!
It was one of the best scenes they've ever done.
Yes.
So they're literally picking up the fight for survival, even with Jubilee and Roberto.
Yeah, having their own little story.
Yeah, which, I mean, that one now, Roberto has now been exposed as a mutant.
In front of his family.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays out with this.
And it was the interesting thing with the end of their sequence was, so they're fighting off, I think what were they, at a mall? Because Jubilee made this line about, why is it always a mall? They end up back at the gala his family is holding, which Jubilee and Roberto found out about earlier in the episode, but because of the language Roberto's mother was using, Jubilee wasn't all in for. She wasn't on board with it. They go fleeing the human Sentinel hybrids, end up back at the gala, and Roberto depowers in front of his family and everybody else and goes, Mom, the Sentinels are trying to kill me. And the Sentinels show up and go, no, we're trying to save you. And the mother just looks at her and goes, you need to go with them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is...
real upstanding mother, her.
It's I want to say, very similar to what happens in the comics to a certain degree.
Sure.
So, like I say, I wasn't super shocked by that. I was like, yeah, but she's not earning any brownie points for Mother's Day. I'll just put it out there.
No, she's not.
So that is all going down. The X-Mansion is getting overran.
Getting destroyed.
And then Bastion does something very uncharacteristic. He takes his eye off the ball.
He does.
Because he is now being overconfident. Now, this is something that with his combination of personalities of Master Mold and Nimrod, like, we need to remember this because that is something that is in the comic. They touched upon it here.
Also mentioned Nimrod in this episode.
That Nimrod's personality is very overconfident at times.
Yeah.
So when we are seeing this play out, we have to keep that in mind because that's where he also has a little bit of that, blind confidence. And this plays into when he has to deal with other members of the MCU that we get some cameos of, because we do get some familiar faces popping up on the TV screens.
Yeah.
Pat, who do we get?
The first one we see is Dr. Doom. That took me almost no time to figure out. Very familiar voice.
Yep.
Might have been the same one they had from the cartoon in the 90s.
I believe so.
Okay. The other one took me a couple seconds to figure out, and I'm like, oh, that looks good. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, wait, that's Baron Zemo.
Yes, without the dancing.
That was a shame.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I wasn't really quite sure. There was a woman.
Well, that one, I'm going to go out on a limb. I did not recognize who that was. Because
I think that was deliberately so.
Yeah. I'm going to say that's Moira McTaggart.
Ooh.
I'm going to say they're tying it back into the Krakoan era.
Okay.
I know it's now, but still I think there are literal reasons they're doing that.
Yeah.
Because I can't see that being like Madeline Pryor or I'm trying to think of who else would be a big villain in the comics universe at that time that would fit the motif here. Because
at this point, I know it was rumored, and I know it was speculated. Based on the last episode and this episode, every other Marvel animated property is in the same universe. That this is a safe statement to make at this point.
Yeah. So that's why I say I'm just trying to think what ex-villain, and Emma Frost was already in the
Right.
Hellfire Gala.
And she's dead, alive. We're not quite sure.
Right. So that's why I say Moira would make a ton of sense here.
Yeah, I mean, you could also say Mystique, but I feel like they would have shown her if that was the case because Mystique has been on the show. Mm-hmm. So it's not exactly a secret or an, oh my God, I can't believe she's here.
Right. So we do see this all playing out. So while he's taking care of that call, Val Cooper has a change of heart. Well, even though she was only tasked with keeping an eye on Bastion,
right?
She sees Magneto,
being held hostage.
Yeah, so she is just saying, like, I'm seeing the world is going to go explode in front of me. We need to do something. She frees him. Right.
Well, and this is after she looks at the mark on his arm from when he was in a concentration camp in World War II. Mm-hmm. And starts to, I think, draw the parallels between the two.
Yeah.
And starts to remorse a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So Magneto is now free. Mm-hmm. And Bastion comes back and is like, what did you do?
Magneto's free and he's pissed off.
Oh, yeah. So she is now imprisoned because everybody was thinking that she might have been Mystique.
Right.
I don't think so. I think that she is either going to be under his control and she'll get turned into a Prime Sentinel before it's all said and done.
Probably. She'll probably show up next episode as a human hybrid.
Right. But we do see he takes off for the North Pole.
Uh-huh.
So while the fighting is going on, Magneto makes his presence known because this is, in a weird sense, he's been waiting for this his entire life.
It's almost like he's had the thought in the back of his mind, but it's one of those, I hope this doesn't come to pass.
See, but he's been wanting this, though.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like, he's been anticipating the war between humans and mutants for so long.
Oh, sure.
That he is now like, it's here. I am ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's had a contingency plan.
Yep, and he is like, it's game on.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to the North Pole and does what, Pad?
What is he? He clocks his powers to like 11
mm-hmm.
and basically knocks out anything magnetic or metal in the entire planet.
He causes a worldwide blackout.
Yeah.
Which he did this in the comics at one point, or he did something with the Earth's gravity pole.
Magnetic poles are at the North and South Pole.
Yeah, so
makes sense.
He did something like this in the comics.
It's a giant lightning rod.
So in doing such, he literally takes out every single Prime Sentinel on the planet.
And we see a couple of folks while he's doing this. First of which, obviously, Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Which, hey, like we said before, with Captain America showing up, Dr. Doom in the Captain America in a prior episode, Dr. Doom showing up in this episode, Baron Zemo showing up in this episode, and now freaking Spider-Man showing up in this episode.
Yeah.
All the same universe, folks. We see, I forget the dude's name, but the samurai dude.
Silver Samurai.
Silver Samurai. We see him. Then it cuts to a certain nuclear power plant in Russia. And they start freaking out. And you never see the full body. You see most of it. You see a certain logo. Certain individual I know they've shown in the prior X-Men animated series. Ken, who was that?
That is Omega Red.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. So, great Easter eggs throughout, giving the
setting
global...
up so much.
It's the global impact.
Yep.
And especially, too, with Spider-Man, everybody's been waiting to see. We've heard rumors so that this was true.
Yep.
So now his role in this is going to be very interesting to see. Because I don't think that was a one and done.
No, I don't either. And if you can't get the guy who originally voiced him in the original series, I'll look up who it is. Yuri Lowenthal, please.
Yeah, I think that
from the Insomniac games.
They'll be ready to go. And we also see another player has entered the game. Because coming into the ashes of the X Mansion, which has been destroyed.
Like the song says, coming in hot.
Mm-hmm. We do see a spaceship come in.
Yep.
We do see a figure coming out in a certain bug-like armor.
With Wolverine and Nightcrawler basically like sheathing their weapons going, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, we got to get together. Ship crashes in. Well, fuck, I guess we're not done yet.
Yeah. And then the person takes their helmet off. And Pat, who is it?
That would be the one, the only Charles Xavier, who made his triumphant return to the lineup of X-Men this week.
Yes. So Xavier comes there and understands what has happened instantly. And issues out a psionic call to action to me, my X-Men.
Yep.
Which connects to everybody from Storm, Jean, Cable, you name it.
Yep.
the entire mutant army that can be drawn for this big battle is now en route to the X-Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally how this show ends.
Looked it up. It was Christopher Daniel Barnes.
Okay.
Who voiced Spider-Man Peter Parker in the original series.
Yeah.
Still doing work to this day, including work with Marvel stuff. He was Electro in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
Very cool.
Was in Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man Unlimited, the video game, Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. So he's still doing stuff with the Marvel properties. So you never know.
You never know, but I think that we'll see a lot more of the MCU comics universe in these next 2 episodes because obviously
you got to figure something like this. Captain America will show up again the next couple episodes. Might get 1 or 2 of the Fantastic Four.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say we're going to get whatever Avengers lineup they want to present.
Okay.
Like, we're going to get...
Given the circumstances, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're getting everybody here.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be something very, very interesting to see how that all interacts at that time.
A little bit of a proof of concept that Avengers vs. X-Men might work on the big screen, I think.
Well, they have to tease it a little bit. I mean,
I know.
But especially with how the story is in the comic in comparison here.
Right.
Because in this, with Operation Zero Tolerance in the comic, there is, a big deal with Bastion.
Sure.
But Magneto, is going to be the wild card here because now knowing what he knows, he is going to make sure that he is victorious for mutant kind at all costs. And Bastion is going to try fighting him and ultimately wind up losing. And it will be an interesting fight to happen, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
My question is going to be at the end of this, in issue 3, or I should say issue 3, but episode 3.
Part 3, yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to get the big face-off between Magneto and Xavier. I think Bastion could be done as soon as next episode.
I don't know if they'll necessarily do the fight between them at the end of this, but I definitely think we will get the moment between them where it's like, hey, listen, everything recent history aside, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're alive, but I need to do what I need to do, and you're going to do what you're going to do. And you're going to see them part ways again.
Well, I could honestly see this. Oh, you're going to see them part ways. There's no question in my mind about this.
Right.
I'm going to say you might see 2 things happen, which I don't think anybody's ready for.
Okay.
One, you're going to see the adamantium get ripped out of Wolverine.
Oh, shit.
I think they're going to do that
they could do it.
For number 3. I think they're going to. Because
it's not broadcast television. They could do it.
Well, that's the whole thing. I think with how they're setting this up is Bastion, it's almost like a red herring, so to speak.
Sure.
Like we think he's going to be around for the 3rd episode.
Sure.
I don't think he is. I think he gets taken out, and I think Magneto is saying, you know what, we're finishing this once and for all. I think you see Wolverine get the adamantium ripped out in the season finale.
Yeah, it could be.
And I'm going to say this, and I did not think it was going to happen, but now seeing how this is set up, I think you're going to see Xavier mind wipe Magneto, and we're going to plant that seed for Onslaught. I'm changing my mind about that.
Okay.
I think we're going to see this happen because I think what is going to ultimately be the point is Wolverine gets taken out.
I mean, I could honestly see it being the last shot of the episode or the season being like, yes, the whole mind wipe thing does happen, but I could very well see that it could be rip the adamantium out, struggle, mind wipe him, win the battle, mind wipe him, and then the last shot is the X-Men crew freaking out and standing there staring, and the last is like one of those top looking down shots of Wolverine just laying there.
Yeah, it'll be Wolverine laying there. I think Xavier is going to have his spine shattered. And I think,
because he's walking.
Yeah, and I think Magneto is going to be lying unconscious. Like you're going to see the 3 of them on the ground. It's going to be one of the wildest parting shots you're going to see in a season. And trust me, social media is going to melt.
Could be one of those. It flashes white. We don't see what happens, and then we see the end results, and they resolve it next season.
Yeah, and the bonus credit scene would be Gambit with Apocalypse. I'm already calling it right now.
Yeah, it could be.
You're going to see that.
Could be.
But, I mean, so much happened in this episode, too.
Yeah.
Like I say, perfect Easter eggs where you saw Polaris, you saw Rachel Summers, and like I say, she's gone through so many different code names. She's going to have a big summer this year coming back with X-Force when that rolled out this summer on the comics. And just like I say, everything else that was really touched upon, too, even like Jubilee.
Yeah.
who had a certain costume, the all-black suit that she had.
Yeah.
That is something that she had when she was in the vampire phase in the comics.
Right.
I mean, that's a whole different story there, but I like how they've implemented little pieces here and there throughout the X-Men history to really just cap this off and send it into an interesting direction. And like I say, that final episode, now I'm convinced like we're going to have that, because I think that Bastion is done. And everybody's going to expect him around for one more episode. I think he's done. And then it's Magneto versus Xavier one last time.
Right. I could see it.
So, Pat, any final thoughts?
Phenomenal episode. One that has definitely got me sitting here wondering what the actual hell is going to happen the next 2 weeks, because I think whatever theories and whatever, possibilities we come up with, we might be on the mark with some of them, but I think they're expecting that and they're going to go left field with it. And we have no idea what's going to happen.
There's such a reason the series is getting so much praise. You need to go watch this and absolutely just sit back and awe. The character development you're going to get, your big fight moments you're getting, and a heck of a mic drop to end this episode as well, too. This is nothing but win no matter where you want to cut it. And trust me, we've got 2 more episodes that are going to be even crazier the more they get released.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes right now, and as of recording, it has a 98% rating from the critics with 63 reviews, and the users have given it, audience has given it a 94%.
Yeah, so you can't go wrong with that.
Not at all.
But definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about part 1 of Tolerance is Extinction, X-Men 97 season finale? Let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do not adjust your dial, or your phone, your watch, or whatever the heck you're using to listen to the awesome podcast you're currently listening to. I am the Duke of Nerds, Tyler Mack. And I am here to tell you that being a nerd can be a bit overwhelming, especially after 30. Life moves pretty fast in our nerd culture, and if you don't take the time to notice things, you miss out. That's why I'm here. As your Duke of Nerds, I am charged with educating, enlightening, and entertaining you on all things nerdy. I do it by running the 30 to Nerdy podcast. 30 to Nerdy is a Badcast Company production and currently playing wherever you cast your pod. Follow along each episode using the hashtag 30andnerdypod. And check out what all is going on at 30nerdypodcast.com. Whether it's DC, Marvel, comics, or video games, I have got you covered. So tune in now. Cheers to you, nerds.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. And I'm excited to talk about what we're going to be talking about, but it's a little bittersweet.
Yes, it is.
We have come to the end of a journey in a galaxy far, far away, where a certain squad of clones has been trying to fight the good fight.
Yep.
And now their saga has come to a startling conclusion.
Getting all misty-eyed.
Pat, who are we talking about?
We were talking about the final episode in Season 3. This was episode number 15, to be specific, of The Bad Batch. The episode titled The Cavalry Has Arrived.
Yes, Clone Force 99, otherwise known as the Bad Batch, has been trying to defeat the Order of 66 and the Empire and all the evil in the galaxy. And right now, things have not been looking very good.
Fun fact, do you know the first sentence that the Bad Batch uttered when they first debuted in Season 7 of the Clone Wars?
It's a trap?
No, that'd be awesome, though. They said, quote, "The cavalry has arrived."
Oh, okay.
Nice little symbolism, nice little tie-in.
I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's been a roller coaster ride concerning one of their members being taken by the Empire.
To say the least.
And involving a certain project known as Necromancer.
Uh-huh.
So, like we did last segment, we go spoiler-free, give a countdown, and then get on with the spoilers. Pat, I know you got a lot to say about this.
I do.
Spoiler-free statement on the Bad Batch.
This episode was great. You know, it was a nice little send-off with plenty with action-packed in it, and some fun moments and some definite moments I'll remember for a while, when I think back on the show. Definitely a show I'll rewatch at some point here. But no, it was fun. It was a good send-off. It was a good final episode that, for once, with a Star Wars show, didn't leave me a weeping, emotional mess like Clone Wars did at least twice. I got a little misty-eyed with the ending, but it wasn't a sad misty-eyed. It was a happy misty-eyed.
This episode really ended things on a strong note.
Yeah. Left it open-ended, too.
Left it very open-ended, which I did not mind.
No.
I thought we would get a little more dramatic on the ending.
Sure.
But it did what it needed to do. It gave the clones a nice farewell and left something open, which we'll get into the spoiler talk. And I kind of want to pick your brain about this a little bit.
Okay.
But I thought for what it did, it really tied in a show that not too many fans at the initial onslaught thought would last this long and continuously get better.
And a show I don't think a lot of fans necessarily wanted.
Yeah.
Because they did a lot with that first, 6, 9, however many episodes it was, of season 7 of the Clone Wars, where it was definitely not focused on Anakin, Obi-Wan, and what have you, that like it almost felt like a couple of, let's see how this goes. Let's see how that goes. We might spin it off into something. It was one that when it showed up in Clone Wars, I was like, oh, okay, these guys are cool. They're a little different. We've been seeing kind of the same clones, especially with Cody and Rex and Wolf and everybody else, all the other commanders and captains and whatnot, that like, they're a little different. Obviously they got the whole defects or whatever that make them special and give them unique abilities, but there was just something to that. And I'm like, okay, I dig these guys a little bit. And then when they announced the show, I was like, you know what? It's Star Wars animated. Of course I'll give it a shot, but I wasn't necessarily so gung-ho like, yeah, this is going to be the greatest show on television. But I quickly grew to very enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it definitely hit its mark and definitely left an impression on the fans, especially going out this week, especially because as we record is May 1st, a couple days away from May the 4th be with you. So there's a lot to enjoy about this episode, so let's get in that spoiler talk and deep dive about it, shall we, Pad?
Sure.
3, 2, 1, talk to me.
Like I said, episode was great. It was a nice send-off and a nice bow on the story where a couple things left open. You might be able to expect something down the road. Is it going to be a full-fledged show? Maybe, maybe not. Could it be just an appearance down the road and something else they got planned? Quite possibly. But it's one of those, hey, we're leaving it open because we don't want to close any doors. But as for the episode itself, loved it.
I'm wondering if we get an Omega spinoff.
Could be.
I'm honestly wondering that. If not, if they wanted to do a one-shot and do something there, I could see that.
I mean, they've done Tales of the Jedi. We've got Tales of the Sith coming out here at the end of the week.
Yes.
Could very well see like a Tales of the Rebellion type of thing. In future, maybe not necessarily this year because they're kind of booked this year for Star Wars shows. But, next year after, I could see a Tales of the Rebellion. There's enough there between Wedge, Hera, now with Omega. I could see it.
I think it would make a lot of sense to do because how this ended, I don't think that was a throwaway scene by any stretch of the imagination.
We know Rex is around up to and through the Battle of Endor in Return of the Jedi. There's enough there to do it.
There's definitely enough there to do it. So that's where I think we're going because as we alluded to, Omega had been taken prisoner by the Empire. And they were using her DNA to experiment a little bit on Project Necromancer. Pad, what is Project Necromancer?
Project Necromancer is the top secret, and I do mean fucking top secret. Like, you have to be a who's who to know what the hell it is. Luckily, we're on the who's who list.
Yes.
But basically what it is a project in an effort to try and create a clone for Emperor Palpatine. So that when his body inevitably, because you hear this alluded to and brought up in Rise of Skywalker, much as people are groaning when I say that, but like the cloning process and just the degradation on the body, the dark side creates that like you need a clone to keep going because he wants to rule forever, but the thing is given how powerful he is, you can't just go into any old body and start using force. No, they have to be force sensitive and it has to be the right force sensitive because otherwise it's like putting a Hemi V8 engine in a punch buggy. It ain't going to work too well.
But will it?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Is it going to work the way it should? No.
Probably not. So as we see, Omega has been taken captured, and now you're seeing her with more of the children that have been getting experimented on.
Yep.
The Bad Batch has made their way to Tantus.
They're kicking up a storm, starting battles, causing distractions.
Yeah, because obviously this is not going to sit well with them. They want to free everybody. And we do see Omega kicks everything off in a very big way. Pat, I will let you take the honors for this one.
Called it. So the Bad Batch and their whole crew are there, starting stuff, sending off, getting the forces drawn away in an effort to track them down and find it. And Omega goes, all right, now's our chance. Now we need to get out of here. So they sneak out through the exit she found in the previous episode, which leads them to the Zillow Beast. And she does almost exactly what I said she was going to do. She didn't go the full distance, but she did set the damn thing loose.
Yes.
And there is no stopping that fucking thing.
No.
It breaks out of containment. It breaks out of the building, and then it gets set loose on the planet, which better hope there's not any settlements on that planet because they ain't going to be around long.
No, it is a dramatic way, and it kicks everything off in a hot manner. Because the action really starts picking up. You do see Crosshair, Wrecker, and Hunter sneak into the base. But they are captured, though. After a little bit of fighting and such.
Yep.
So we do see they're taken off the board. Amory and Echo are finding the children. And Echo kind of says, okay, you got to get them to safety, Emery.
Well, because they meet up with each other, and that's when she kind of expresses to Echo, because Echo's heard about her, she's heard about Echo, and they're like, all right, hey, we know the same person, and she's like, listen, I'm here, and I've been doing work for them, but as we kind of figured, she's not exactly happy with everything that's going on, and she wants to fix the wrongs she's committed.
Yeah, she's almost in that Val Cooper role.
Yes.
So we do see that she's trying to do what she can to help keep the kids safe. Echo is basically saying, like, well, we have to make sure we shut this down.
Yep.
So he and Omega take off and free who pad?
That would be Nala Say, I think. Yeah, the Kaminoan.
Yep, and Rampart and everybody else. So they're basically setting everybody free.
Yep.
And you do see Nala Say is going to destroy the data that's been involved with this project.
Everything. Start to finish, everything they found.
Yes. But she's confronted by Rampart. And there's a bit of a standoff, and I like how they set this up.
Yeah.
Because Nala had a grenade or explosive of some device that was pressured.
I think it was up on one of the machines or something there. Because you could see it out of focus in one of the shots.
Yeah, well, she had it like in her hand set off.
Yeah.
So as she's sitting there, she's explaining like she's destroying the data, but Rampart is saying, no, if the Empire is going to this lengths to protect it,
it's worth something.
It's worth something. So I want it. So he winds up shooting her.
Right, and I think at this point, he's been contacted by Tarkin going, hey, I've caught word of what's going on there. And he tries blowing it off like, no, like kind of like Han Solo in A New Hope. Like, oh, nothing to see here. Everything's perfectly fine. How are you? But Tarkin sees through that. He's like, all right, enough of this. We're on our way. So so the Empire and the crew there are like, oh, shit, we're in trouble.
Yeah. So the explosion goes off because once it leaves Nala's hand, because she's been killed, it blows everybody up, including Rampart.
Yep.
So that's taken off the board. Hemlock, who has been the head officer here, and he is now trying to convert all of the captured members of the Bad Batch into soldiers for him, but is stopped by Omega and Echo. So because of the distraction was going on too, caused by Nala. So like I say, everything's coming together here, and we do see the fighting really kicks off at this moment too. And this is where things are really escalating because you're seeing just a lot of just big action happening. But Hemlock does what every great villain does. He takes Omega hostage and is now using her as a bargaining chip with the Bad Batch, saying basically, if you kill me, you're going to kill her.
Right, and he knows Crosshair isn't exactly as sharp a shooter as he normally is.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, everyone's figured this out.
That's the one thing this entire season I have to complain about.
Sure.
Everybody knows he can't hit anything.
But luckily for them, Omega's got a game plan, and Hunter clues him into this and goes, hey, just wait for her cue. Omega pulls out the knife, whatever the hell this thing was, stabs Hemlock in the leg, and he goes, and he lets her go. And at that point, Hunter and the sharpshooter, Crosshair, thank you, I was blanking on the name. Crosshair opened fire on Hemlock, and he goes falling over the edge of the bridge they're on.
Yeah, well, because Omega winds up getting herself free because they were handcuffed together.
Oh, that's right. They shoot first. Crosshair hits the chains connecting the handcuffs.
Right. So that's where he gets taken off the board because, he winds up falling to his death. And this is now the heartwarming moment where Omega gets reunited with her team. And they all make the escape because obviously the rest of the Bad Batch has defeated the army.
Right, and there's a whole bunch of other clones there that they are now bringing with them.
Mm-hmm. So they escape to where, Pat?
Back to Pabu.
Yep. So this is now the happy resolution part.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see that Amory has come with them.
Yep.
And is now working with Echo and Rex about helping clones.
Yep.
So a very change of heart and character. And we do see that Tarkin has now shown up on Tantus.
Yeah. Well, it's right as the clones and the Bad Batch leave. The camera lingers, and you see him go up. He pops in and lands on the planet, and then immediately goes to the records room, sees that everything's destroyed, and he's like, "Listen, this base is awash. Shut it down. Get rid of all evidence." And then he says, "Divert all funds to Project Stardust."
And immediately I thought, Cody Rhodes?
Not quite. We have heard that project name before.
Yes, we have.
It's been a while since Rogue One. Project Stardust is the Death Star.
Yeah. So great way to set up things for that.
Uh-huh.
And it seems like the happy ending everybody's having on Pabu.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get a bonus scene.
Yeah, we do.
If you will. Years later.
A couple of years later.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while.
They don't really quite, like, you can tell it's a while later, but they don't quite say when.
Mm-hmm. We see Omega, who is now grown up, and announces that she is going to join the rebellion.
Which, I mean, she's got an in with. She met Harrison Dula in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Harrison Dula, as we know, general in the rebellion and eventually the New Republic. So yeah, if you need a good reference for your resume into the army, that's a decent one.
Mm-hmm. So she winds up saying goodbye to Hunter, who has aged dramatically.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Omega, I don't think, so that's the thing with the clones is they were genetically altered so that they aged quicker. That way you didn't have to wait 20 plus years for them to become ready. You only had to wait a couple months to a year, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But as we can see, Omega clearly not genetically altered with. So Echo is, I without knowing when it takes place, I'm willing to say probably in his 50s.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, very easy. So they have a very heart-to-heart talk, hug goodbye.
Yep.
And then it literally ends with just them having that send-off.
Yeah.
And we now just go into a galaxy far, far away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it ends.
Yeah.
Pat, I mean, impactful episode.
Yeah.
You know, a lot happier ending than I thought it should
have
been.
And like I said, I got a little misty-eyed because you see, the thing with these Star Wars projects is they like to introduce these characters in a set time, and I'm talking about Ahsoka, where we know the ending of what happens to these crews. Like, we know with the clones, eventually they all go away. They stop showing up. Sure, you see an occasional one here or there, but like eventually you stop seeing them altogether. By the time of A New Hope, they're not being used at all in the Empire. So again, we're introduced to these characters like we know ultimately what's going to happen to them, but we don't know what's going to happen to them in this story. So typically with like, especially with Clone Wars, they like to do these endings where it's super fucking sad and emotional. And it's like, oh my God, it's a knife twist in your gut. Mm-hmm. But this one actually wasn't. This one was like a happy, like, oh, they got a happy ending. They got to live out their days in quiet and solitude, and nothing crazy happened.
Yeah, I would say
it's a rare moment for Star Wars.
It's very rare, and it threw me off. I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting like Crosshair to be killed or Echo.
Well, I mean, they might be dead. All we saw in this end scene was
but
Omega and Hunter
going out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah,
that's what I was expecting. Like I was expecting like the assassin clone to.
I was too, but I was also happy at the same time we didn't get that because at this point it feels typical. I mean, Han Solo returns to Star Wars for the first time in however many years, they kill him off. Luke Skywalker returns to Star Wars for the first time in how many years, they kill him off. And then Leia died obviously too as well, but they like to introduce and bring back these characters and kill them off. It was nice to not see that again.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a change of pace that I think a lot of fans are going to enjoy. Like I say, for me, it took a little while to sink in, but I'm like, okay. And then, I mean, like I say, I think we're going to have a bonus adventure at some point with Omega.
Could be. I mean, there's been a rumored Captain Rex Echo show for a while, and we know because Rex is around through at least Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
He does show up in Return of the Jedi, and if they just want to continue off of what they were doing here, because we didn't see Rex all that much, they could certainly do something here. he does show up later in Rebels, which takes place a little bit further down the timeline. So they got some wiggle room to do something.
They definitely have a lot of room to make something happen, and I think that we're going to. And I think that they put a very nice stamp of approval on this show before sending it off into the galaxy.
And depending on Omega's age in the final sequence, which I'm going to say she's around maybe 20, 21 years old, give or take, If we just say that's around the time of Empire Strikes Back, because let's just say she doesn't really jump in until after the first Death Star gets destroyed.
Yeah.
Realistically, by the time of a certain movie it's getting ready to come out from Dave Filoni, you know what I'm talking about, Grogu and Mandalorian, she'd be in her, say, 40s or 50s by the time that came around. So, she could show up in live action there.
This is true.
She doesn't age like all the other clones, and that's rapidly. She ages naturally. So if she's in her 20s, about midway through the rebellion, between the Empire and the Rebel Alliance, by the time of Mandalorian and all that, she'd be in her, give or take 40, mid late 40s, maybe early 50s.
Never know.
You never know.
That's a great thing about Star Wars. You never know when these characters are going to be appearing yet again. If the story lets them have a run, they'll definitely do it. And I think we might not see the end of this Bad Batch for a while. I think that maybe we'll return to this universe, you will, at some point. But in the meantime, the Cavalry did arrive and definitely left its impression on fans on the way out. So that all said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about the series finale of The Bad Batch by Star Wars and Disney Plus? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And why? And where do you think everybody goes after here? Let's talk about it, shall we? First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about, first of which is some video game news. We got some new interesting features coming to the PlayStation 5 that might make it easier for you to play online with some friends. Reading from an article on comicbook.com, it says, quote, a new feature will be coming to PlayStation 5, which will allow players to invite people to play with them online, even if they aren't already friends through PlayStation Network. Through the PS5 or the PlayStation app, users are going to be able to generate links that can then be shared to invite one another to join online sessions. This won't be replacing the current method, so nothing has to change if players want to leave well enough alone. Basically, the idea is to make it much easier to jump into gameplay sessions with the people that you want to play with without having to jump through the same hoops there are currently. Close quote. So the way this sounds is, if let's just say you got a friend of a friend and you're in a, let's say, a Discord group and you want to go play online together. Well, typically right now at the PlayStation, you got to exchange usernames and then add each other as a friend and go through the whole thing. But what it sounds like now is, hey, you want to join me in this game? Here's a link. Click on this. You'll automatically be able to join with it. And the QR codes will be an option too. But I like the way this sounds.
Yeah, this definitely sounds very interesting.
Any way you can make it easier to join with a friend online other than just adding them as a friend and all this other stuff, I'm all for.
Yes.
And then just to keep it fair, we do have some Xbox news because Microsoft's Xbox game release window might have gotten revealed. Reading from an article on IGN.com, it says, quote, a new report has revealed launch timings for Xbox games throughout the rest of 2024, spilling the beans on when to expect everything from the next Call of Duty to Indiana Jones. The Verge reported that Bethesda is currently targeting a September release for the Starfield expansion, Shattered Space. In a recent interview, Bethesda development chief Todd Howard announced a fall release window for the expansion. Elsewhere, Activision plans to release the next Call of Duty, which some fans believed is called Black Ops 5, in late October, according to The Verge. The same report claims Obsidian's Avowed and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 follow in November, leaving Machine Games' hotly anticipated Indiana Jones and the Great Circle to launch in December. If true, that's a jam-packed second half of 2024 for Xbox, which is now boosted by Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard and all the games that it owns. It's worth remembering that Microsoft now owns Blizzard and MMO World of Warcraft, which is set to receive the War Within expansion before the end of the year. Microsoft is heavily rumored to be planning to announce the next Gears of War game during its showcase, although there is no indication it's a 2024 title. expect plenty of release dates for all the games coming out this year and some set for 2025. Other announced Microsoft games include The Initiative and Crystal Dynamics' Perfect Dark reboot.
Oh, wait, they're redoing Perfect Dark?
Yes, they are. Rare's
Wow. Okay, I'm in.
Rare's Everwild, Playground's Fable reboot, In Exile's Clockwork Revolution, Undead Labs' State of Decay 3, and Compulsion Games' South of Midnight. Fans don't have to wait long before hearing all of this straight from the horse's mouth. Microsoft's Xbox Showcase event is set for June 9th, so just about a month away. So definitely some interesting stuff there. I know fans of Starfield are definitely hoping for something big, because I had a lot of hype going into it, launched, and then was like a wet fart. Not a lot of fanfare.
No, definitely not, but I'm excited about Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
I remember that game for
I
64.
I do too.
Yeah.
And then we got a release date and a debut trailer for My Adventures with Superman Season 2. The premiere is launching on Saturday, May 25th at midnight Eastern / Pacific on Adult Swim. And if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be a 1 hour episode.
Let's go.
So yeah, the article on IGN reads, quote, My Adventures with Superman Season 2 debuts on Adult Swim with 2 back-to-back episodes, followed by 1 new episode every Saturday. New episodes will also stream Sundays on Max. Super excited for this. If you have not seen Season 1, phenomenal season. Now's a great time to catch up on Season 1, because it's really arguably, and I know it's a short list, best animated DC show they've done since like the Justice League. We'll just call it the Bruce Timm-verse. You know, Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and the Justice League series.
It's in the discussion. I will say this. I mean, Season 1 was very, very good, but you are right. I mean, they haven't... Yeah, it's in the discussion. I'll just put it that way.
Then, obviously, what's this Saturday?
Free Comic Book Day.
Yes, but it's also May the 4th, so it is the official Star Wars Day. And I got a couple things here for you from the StarWars.com website, specifically for game deals and then just general deals. Because, hey, if you're a Star Wars fan, it's going to be a fun day. So first of which, on console, PC, and mobile over at Fortnite, the article reads, Fortnite is celebrating Star Wars like never before. Experience new gameplay, outfits, cosmetics, and more across Lego Fortnite, Rocket Racing, Fortnite Festival, and Battle Royale starting today. You learn more about Lego Fortnite, Star Wars Original Trilogy theme update, and then also there are going to be Star Wars integrations across all Fortnite game products. So definitely going to see a heavy Star Wars presence. I know Lando Calrissian and Chewbacca are going to get added to the game, so definitely going to be something to check out if you play Fortnite. For Ken's favorite game of all time, Rocket League, the article reads, quote, Celebrate Star Wars Day behind the wheel in Rocket League. Challenges await for unlocking Star Wars themed items like Anakin's Pod Racer decal, Energy Binding Trail, and Darth Maul decal. The stuff is available in-game from May 3rd through the 20th, so you definitely got a bit of time if you aren't able to catch it this weekend. Then they're launching a new game that was announced this week. They're going to be launching a new mobile game that was announced this week called Star Wars Hunters. It launches on June 4th on iOS, Android, and Nintendo Switch. You can pre-register now to unlock awesome rewards, including exclusive character costumes, weapon wraps, and more. Saw the trailer for this, not quite sure what it's gonna. I figured it was a mobile game, but what exactly it entails, not quite sure. It almost looks like the.
It looks like Marvel Snap.
Yeah, well, Marvel Snap, or like the Marvel Strike, where like you build your own team.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of go at each other fighting. So we'll see what happens. Then for Brawlhalla, Darth Maul is joining Brawlhalla in a Mythic crossover. It says just the iconic Darth Maul joins Brawlhalla as a Mythic crossover just in time to celebrate May the 4th and the 25th anniversary of Star Wars The Phantom Menace. This event runs from May 1st through the 21st. Then you've got Star Wars Outlaws, which the article says, get a closer look at Star Wars Outlaws with a new fan kit filled with all new digital goodies, including updates with new concept art and more characters added in the updated visual guide. I will personally say, hold out on that.
Yeah.
The fact that like they're charging $200 for one of the editions of the game. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, just our opinion about that one, but I agree with you about that.
Then you've got the Asper Star Wars Heritage Pack. Listen to this fucking thing. Get 50% off the Asper Star Wars Heritage Pack, which includes Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, Star Wars Republic Commando, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What was that? 7 games?
Mm-hmm.
You can get it for 50% off. It's on the Nintendo Switch. It's available from May 3rd through the 9th. Then you can also get the EA Star Wars Triple Bundle. Get up to 90% off 3 critically acclaimed games with the EA Star Wars Triple Bundle. This includes Star Wars Squadrons. Highly recommend that game.
Yes.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Highly recommend that game. And Star Wars Battlefront 2 Celebration Edition. So that's everything involved with, you get all the bonus stuff for Battlefront 2. You can get that May 1st through the 4th. Then you've got Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Highly recommend this fucking game. You get up to 75% off Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga Standard Edition, Deluxe Edition, and Galactic Edition, and character collection packs. This offer is available May 2nd through the 6th. And then you've got the Minecraft Star Wars Collection. It says, quote, check out the marketplace for great deals on Star Wars content and 33% off all Star Wars DLC packs. That offer is valid April 26th through May 7th. So that's all the character packs. You can dress up as the characters. May or may not include the like story DLC Star Wars thing they did for Minecraft. Check that out a little bit myself. Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
You get to build. It does include Path of the Jedi, so it does include that whole thing where you go to Ilum, build your own lightsaber, and you get powers, and you can travel to Camino and other planets. Fucking seriously, check that out. Then you've got The Sims 4 with the Star Wars bundle they did for that. You can get up to 30% off that deal, which is valid April 30th through May 13th. You can get 88% off Star Wars Battlefront 2, specifically up to 90% off Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. You can get up to 55% off Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is the sequel. That offer is valid April 29th through May 13th. For Star Wars The Old Republic, that is the online MMO game, still going strong after well over 10 years. Says all players who log in during the May the 4th celebration will also receive an exclusive May the 4th mini pet droid. Enjoy a double XP event and a variety of cartel market sales, including collection unlocks. Offer valid May 1st through the 16th. And then for Star Wars Pinball, which
yes,
I gotta admit, it's a little fun. Celebrate May the 4th with discounts on Star Wars Pinball content across most platforms. That is valid April 29th through May 6th. Star Wars Squadrons by itself, you can get up to 95% off. That is valid April 29th through May 13th. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which I gotta admit, little fun little game on your phone if you got some time. It says enjoy free gifts throughout May, including a login calendar for daily login perks, free character shards, credits, and much more. Don't miss out on special marquee events, double drops, and the long-awaited release of Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And there's a thing for Disney Emoji Blitz, Disney Sum, Sim Free Play. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. I'll include a link to the Star Wars article so you can definitely check that out and peruse what you want yourself. Then for the actual Star Wars deals from Abrams Books, you can take 40% off select Star Wars titles using the promo code FORCE40 online, valid through this Saturday. Amazon, you can get special offers on select Star Wars toys, apparels, and more, including exclusive Star Wars Day deals. Of course, goes through Saturday. American Tourister, you can get 30% off select Star Wars products with an extra 10% off using code FORCE10. Look at that suitcase.
I like that.
R2-D2, can't go wrong with that. Then Box Lunch, you can get 25% off all Star Wars products. Again, valid through May the 4th and 5th. And then Chronicle Books, they've got a deal going, 20% off all Star Wars books and novelty products. Corkle, 20% off all Star Wars drinkware. Dark Horse is doing, say, 50% off digital Star Wars comics and art books, now on sale through Dark Horse Digital. That is valid through May 13th. Highly recommend you check out some of the Dark Horse Star Wars books. Those are amazing. A whole bunch of other ones going on. Like I said, I'll include a link to both articles in the show notes there if you want to check those deals out. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot happening on May the 4th. So definitely, if you're a Star Wars fan, there is going to be quite the content for you to check out.
Also, in theaters this weekend only for the 25th anniversary, Phantom Menace.
Yes.
I will be going.
I was going to say, Pat is not missing that.
I am not missing out on an opportunity to hear Duel of the Fates on glorious, wonderful surround sound systems in the movie theaters.
Yeah, that'll be a fun time, obviously. Bouncing off of Free Comic Book Day, but before I get into that a little bit, There was a con this past weekend.
Oh, yeah?
C2E2.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of massive verse stuff that came out. So shout out to our good friends over at Black Market Narrative and Image Comics. Mickey Smith, who is the voice of Nerd Initiative, was at the panel, did an amazing job covering it. So if you want to find out what all went down there, definitely go check that out on nerdinitiative.com. However, though, there was one thing that, Pat, I want to run by you because I expect you to have a big reaction about this.
Okay.
There was an announcement about a Radiant Black, the audiobook, Volume 1 coming.
I'm interested. I love audiobooks.
Yes. Do you want to take a guess of who is voicing Nathan and Marshall?
Well, I'm hoping Will Friedle is attached. I know he did the fan thing prior.
Yes.
Okay.
So Will Friedle is coming back as Marshall.
Nice.
And Ryder Strong.
Oh, shit. Really?
is going to be Nathan.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So more details are coming out about this.
When do I pre-order this? Because it needs to be yesterday.
Yeah. We're going to definitely be talking about that. Like I say, that completely blew my mind. But this is also something Black Market Narrative does quite often.
Yeah.
So, like I say, they have a link over on the Radiant Black website to sign up for updates, but you should be signed up for the newsletter that Black Market Narrative does.
I definitely need this in my life.
Yeah, this will be one you definitely don't want to miss, and especially they have a lot of things coming out this summer. Obviously, the end of the Catalyst War is going to be a major comic event. Supermassive 2024 was announced officially. And I would say more than likely our good friends over there will be swinging through the ODPH at some point. But stay tuned for that, as we say, ... And then this week is a special week at the comic shops.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's Free Comic Book Day this Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at, go to your comic shops on that Saturday.
Personal experience, go early.
Yes.
It'll be very busy.
It's going to be crazy. You're going to see a ton of cosplay, a ton of deals going on at pretty much every shop on the planet.
Yeah.
And free comics. And if you want recommendations for that, myself and Off the Cuff Tom from Turn a Page went to our local shop here in the 607, caught up with our good friend Justin Credible Cosplay, and broke down the event, some books to look out for. There's over 40 books that are going to be involved with this year's Free Comic Book Day.
That's always impressive.
Yeah, it's crazy. So there's something for everybody, so can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
But you should be going more than once to your comic shops because today is New Comic Book Day as we record.
Yes.
Pad, what are you picking up this week?
So for a couple things I'm picking up this week, all of them from Marvel. First of which is Invincible Iron Man issue number 18 from written by Gary Dugan. And the description of this is side by side with Magneto. For years, the master of magnetism was Iron Man's greatest fear. But to take down Orcus, will Tony have to work with the X-Men's former adversary? And will a fight against every Sentinel on Earth be too much for even these two powerhouses? Oh my God.
Yeah, I believe this is stemming out of the resurrection of Magneto, but still, the cover looks insane.
Cover's nuts, especially the iron or armor Tony's rocking. Holy hell. This whole run has been just chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Highly recommend you check out this run. Then you've got Immortal Thor issue number 10 from Al Ewing. This one says, Thor must die. The son of Odin faced 3 of his greatest foes in battle, with the fog of magic closing around him, yet even if he won, he lost. For Thor fought not for his life, but for his death. This is the story of the immortal Thor and the Minotaur's final triumph. This is going to be nuts.
Yeah,
calling it now.
The Immortal Thor has definitely been making a lot of noise lately. So
covers also equally parts bonkers.
That's Alex Ross art, if I'm not mistaken. So
it is.
I could understand why.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the background of what's behind Thor.
Yeah.
You
have to see it to get that full reference.
And then lastly, certainly not leastly, one I reviewed for my first ever review on nerdinitiative.com.
Let's go.
Star Wars Phantom Menace 25th Anniversary Special, issue number 1 from Greg Pak. You had Will Sleaney as the artist. This one reads, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace with an all-new story. Explore the earliest days and secret inner life of Anakin Skywalker with never-before-seen revelatory stories set before, after, and between the scenes of the classic movie, featuring the dream of a Jedi, the gift of a Tusken Raider, and the heart of a Gungan. The Ache of a Mother and the Horror of a Hero. This book, like I say in my review on nerdinitiative.com, definitely check that out, is fun no matter what level of a Star Wars fan you are. If you've seen the movie once, if you've seen the movie 1,000 times, I think at this point we're all familiar with the movie. It's been out 25 years here in a couple weeks. But the crew that was behind this took no fear of like, well, hell, how are we going to adapt one of the legendary Star Wars stories into comic book form and not feel like we're just rehashing the same elements. We're rehashing the same stories. They definitely, highlight those moments and they bring them to the page. The artist, Will Sliney and the colorist, Guru EFX did a fan-fucking-tastic job with the artwork on this. It looks like they literally just copied it or lifted it from the movie, put it on the page. It's phenomenal how they did it. But they certainly dwell on those moments. But for me, where it stood out in the issue, like it says in the descriptor, those moments that weren't on screen. But if you've read the novelization, you've heard about the dream he has, being a Jedi and saving the world. You've seen and heard about some of these moments, but to actually see them on a page, awesome to see.
No, absolutely.
Cannot recommend this book enough.
It's perfect timing, too, coming out this weekend. Obviously, the movie getting relaunched and such.
Yeah.
But it's Marvel Star Wars. I mean, what can you say?
Cannot go wrong.
Yeah, you can't go wrong there. For me, man, great week of books out at the shops this week. DC had a lot of annuals drop this week.
Yes, they did.
But the one that jumped out to me, and this is a crossover event that really is blowing my mind right now, and I feel it's going to be tying into the big Absolute Power series that is dropping this summer. It's the House of Brainiac. And this is where Brainiac has unleashed an army of Caesarians, which is Lobo's alien race,
right,
onto Metropolis.
Oh, boy.
That were presumed dead. And, they're not. So this is kind of a little break in the action, and this shows Brainiac's first involvement with Caesarnia. So it's a fun story. But it's also broken down into 3 separate stories because it's an annual. So there's a lot going on with this, but if you've been following that crossover, and you should because it's been really good thus far, this is one issue you definitely don't want to miss. And like I say, it's going to have big implications on what's going to be coming out this summer as well. Over from Dynamite Entertainment.
Oh.
The minute you say David Pepos is writing a book, I'm picking it up.
Absolutely.
And especially with the character involved, Space Ghost.
Oh.
The legendary Hanna-Barbera cartoon is now back in comic book form. Jonathan Lowe is on the art. This is a must read. This is like about as perfect of a debut issue as you can get. Mm-hmm. And it's presented in a different way than I was expecting.
Right.
But it still hits all the major points. And like I say, I'm super excited to see where this is going to go. This is highly, highly, highly recommended from me. Everybody else at Nerd Initiative, I think we've all been buzzing about this book.
Right.
And like I say, it's David Pepos. I mean, what else can you say? If he's writing a book, you definitely need to go check it out.
Absolutely.
Also, one that came out and kind of flew on my radar, but I knew who the creators were, so I'm taking a shot with it. And it's by a new imprint known as Magma Comics. So this one is called The Scale Trade, #1, by Steve Orlando and Megan Hung. Mm-hmm. And this is a book that is kind of delving, it's like a crime book, but it's dealing with dragons.
Nice.
It's a very interesting story, and that's what kind of hooked me on this.
Okay.
So, like I say, it's just kind of dealing with an agency that's preventing the dealings of dragons,
right,
and all that comes with it. So it's an interesting story that caught my attention out the gate. So very interested to see where this is going with. But like I say, Magma is just coming out. They've got a couple books out right now. The Principles of Necromancy, which Hive Mind is writing, so that's enough said there. And Silicon Bandits, that is also out as well. So, like I say, if you're looking for a new imprint to get involved with, go check out Magma. Let me know what you think about it. Like I say, I thought it was a solid debut. Something a little different, but I like different stuff. So.
Right.
Last but certainly not least, Marvel Comics. Well, Pad, this is a book you may not pick up.
Probably not.
This is the bloodiest Marvel story ever.
Oh, boy.
That is what they were teasing with all the PR stuff.
Okay.
That is the quote-unquote bloodiest Marvel event ever. This is Blood Hunt by Jed MacKay, Pepe Larraz. This is the big vampire story driven that we've heard about since New York Comic Con last year.
Right.
Debut issue came out, and it's out the gate really impressed me. It is not for the tame of heart. There's a reason they're doing red band editions. Because, listen, you're dealing with vampires. This is stuff that gets very, very in your face. I will say a couple panels, I was like, whoa, okay. May not be suitable for a younger audience.
Sure.
But definitely gives you a very big cliffhanger ending, a very shocking surprises throughout. I like how McKay set this up with the timeline factor of it, which if you read the issue, you'll get as you go along. And I thought for being an event issue, really set a high pace, really enjoy this, and very interested to see where we go from here because I got a lot of questions, to be honest with you. But I think we're going to expect something major to go down here and ramifications to follow suit. So a lot of great stuff happening this week at the comic shop. So you need more reviews. NerdInitiative.com has you covered. The Comics Bullpen has another strong day. Went from 9 a.m. to 12:15, I believe.
Wow.
Every 15 minutes on the 15, we drop new reviews, and nobody else is doing it like we're doing it, so I'm just kind of putting that out there. So go check that out, and especially go down to your comic shops on Free Comic Book Day, especially. Go get some deals. Go check out some new publishers you're not familiar with. Take a shot with them. Like I say, they have free comics. It's usually a limit on it, so definitely keep your eyes out for certain ones, but don't be afraid to take a flyer if you're allowed to take a flyer on one. That's how you get involved in new universes, and you never know. You might find your new favorite writer or artist or characters. So that's the beauty of it. So definitely go down there. Let us know what you pick up on social media. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod, and let's talk about Free Comic Book Day on Saturday. So that's it for anything and everything that is the ODPH. You can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for entertainment this week. So for the one and only Padawanje.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.
Has crept up to cover your face, sliding backwards in disguise, and nothing collapses into place. So we try to keep our heads above the water, but it gets so hard to breathe out here. From the little task at hand, the